What's poppin'? What's poppin'? What's poppin'? Welcome to No Blankets Podcast, Season 1, Episode 4. It's your girl, your host, C. West, and family. We are still grinding out the topic of leadership accountability. And tonight's topic, we'll be focusing on mental illness. That's right, the systemic stigma. If you're catching this live or on the replay, I want to take this time to say thank you for tuning in. Do me a favor, do your girl a favor. After the broadcast, migrate right on over to the YouTube station. Hit that subscribe button because you know your girl's trying to get those likes up. Uh, Let me give a shout out to my sponsors. My girl, my little sis, T Money of T Money Beats. She's the Wonder Woman of the ones and twos and always in the lab cooking up the dopest beats in Sacramento. Shout out, little sis. Shout out to the beautiful, my sis, Miss Ely Chandler of Chandler and Company. They call her the Hat Lady, y'all. And she keeps our head game fly with her fedora hats for men and women. Shout out to my undercover brother, Lance, the PI. He's that retired police officer and process server. And if you need those papers served or that Mr. 007 to catch your partner on a late night creeping out the telly, he's your man, your guy, Lance the PI. Also, my man, 100 grand, the doctor, the bishop, Kenneth L. Davis, and his lovely wife, my cousin, Rhonda Davis. Dr. Davis is responsible for my podcast web design. So if you're in need of that professional, extra crispy look that takes your image to the next level, Dr. Davis is your man. All of the sponsors' information will be included in the comment section below. If you're new to the series, here's a quick recap. Episode 1 is still trending. It's close to 2,000 views as I discuss the collateral damage of failed leadership from the lenses of my own personal experience. And that episode, I guarantee you, kept you on your seat. You can catch it on Cheryl Has Favor Weston on Facebook Live. In episode 2, I discussed definitions like influencer, indoctrination, and idolatry, and how leaders have used these concepts to manipulate and traumatize the people that they serve. In episode 3, my, boots on the ground with my man, I invited the Mr. Ronnie Cobb because I didn't want to be disingenuous or keep laminating and highlighting on failed leadership. I wanted to shine some positive light on some real amazing leadership in the community. If you catch that one, man, I'm telling you, it was fire. I got so many calls and texts and comments that were inspiring to let me know how many gems that man dropped and how people were affected by it. One of the nuggets I walked away with, and there were many, was when he said he had a conversation with the late Bishop Sherwood Carson, who said, "Don't ever stop following a true legend, but make sure you identify with what one is." I was like, what? Say it again. He said, "Don't ever stop following a true legend, but make sure you identify what one is." All these episodes can be viewed by following my page at Cheryl Has Favor Weston on Facebook or at No Blankets Podcast on YouTube. Let's see. According to the Suicide Prevention Resource Center, young African American men commit suicide at more than 3 times the rate of African American women. The suicide rate for Black children ages 10 to 19 has risen 60% just over the past 2 decades, and it's outpacing any other racial or ethnic group. Today, African Americans face numerous challenges that affect their mental health, like the disproportionate high levels of unemployment, poverty and privation, incarceration, health disparities and disability, substance abuse, the psychological impact of the pandemic. We all remember that, y'all. And
Mhm.
the unprecedented number of police shootings in the African American community. Man, we are stressed out. We have we have been stressed out. But here to answer some of these questions and help us navigate through this systematic uh, trauma is my man, Brian Howard. He is a licensed marriage and family therapist. He has his associates in psychology from Sac City. He has his bachelor's of psychology from Sac State, his master's in counseling and psychology from USF. He's the services that he provide is individual counseling, family therapy, couples counseling, children's therapy. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to share this platform with Bryant Howard. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I can't complain. Thank you so much for your time tonight. This is a very complex topic and a subject. Um, and I wanted to make sure that I had a professional opinion and a view to answer some of these questions and maybe provide some clarity on this issue. And if you don't mind, I'm going to go right on in and answer and get with these questions if you don't mind. I mean,
Absolutely.
we only get an hour, but mental illness, I have been preparing for this interview for a week, and the information, Brian, that I've gathered, um, it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
There's so many layers to it. So if you
Yeah.
don't mind, I'll begin with the questions, and at the end of the questions, I'll let you go ahead and tell us just who you are.
Yes.
So, Brian, what are the warning signs of anxiety and depression? And what are some of the ways we can suggest therapy to family, friends, or even coworkers,
Yeah.
employees?
So, it's interesting about mental health, and we all have our own ideas of what mental health is. And you can go online and you can, do a quick Google search on certain things, and but there is, for us professionals, went to school. There's a DSM. There's the diagnostic manual that we use that gives a certain criteria for um, what anxiety and depression actually are. But some of the warning signs I would just say are from if you see someone who's a family or a friend or somebody who's struggling, anxiety and depression. And well, depression looks a little different from anxiety. Depression is when you're just not feeling up to it ultimately. If you're struggling with fatigue, you're, you just don't really feel like doing the things that you normally would do. Um, that's what depression looks like.
Mhm.
A lot of people would describe depression as a weight that's on them, and
Mhm.
it's hard to get it off. It's hard to do things, right? Anxiety is a little different. Anxiety is when you're just struggling with just getting into something, right? So or thinking about something, stress and all that stuff. And so it's really interesting what anxiety actually is. Anxiety is it's a symptom of what's happening with your brain and the processes that are happening in your body as a result of potential trauma and life, um, dangerous situations and things like that, and how your body responds to a dangerous situation. And anxiety can be a trick that your brain plays on you, that's telling you to respond to a specific situation that is similar to a dangerous situation that you used to, or that you once were in. And it's your
Mhm.
body's way of telling you to respond similarly to how you did in that situation where you were in danger. And so anxiety looks like um, you may your heart may beat fast, and you might sweat a lot more, and it may be hard for you to think and things like that, and hard for you to do the things that you need to do. It's hard for you to think clearly in those moments. And people struggle with anxiety attacks and panic attacks and things like that. Um, and then the next part of your question is, how do you help those who are struggling with anxiety, those who are struggling with depression? One of the hardest things when it comes to depression and anxiety, and really any kind of um, something that you're struggling with, one of the hardest things is to recognize that you're struggling with something, right? And so you know AA and all those other, the first step is recognizing that there is a problem, right? And so what we can do as support systems to those that we recognize are struggling, we can recognize those symptoms that we see. Hey, I see that you might be struggling here with this, or hey, I noticed that you haven't been doing the things that you used to do, or I noticed that you seem a little stressed, right? And being supportive to those in those hard times is going to be really, really helpful for anyone that's struggling with anxiety or depression.
Right. Right. I
Mhm.
know that a lot of people who struggle with depression are usually really seclusive.
Yes.
They're they don't like big crowds.
Right.
A lot of times they'll be introverts. A lot of times they don't want anybody around them.
Mm.
Things of that nature. I mean, as far as anxiety is concerned, I know a lot of people that struggle with anxiety.
Right.
My first anxiety attack was during COVID-19, with
Mm.
all of the fear. You
Yeah.
know, I told my friends, don't send me no more messages of people dying on the oxygen mask,
Yeah.
and please, no
Yeah.
disrespect to any listeners that lost their family members during that time. But for me, it was a spirit of fear.
Yeah.
I mean, you had CNN and MSNBC and Fox and ABC and 10 and 3 all day long from sunrise to sunset showing us people dying and statistics. I mean, I was in the bathroom. I thought my heart would stop.
Yeah.
I straight had
Absolutely.
an anxiety attack. My second question, Brian, is how has post-slavery and post COVID 19 impacted the African American communities? I mean, this question hits home for me, Bryant, because I witnessed in my industry colleagues that lost
Yeah.
everything that they put their money in their small businesses. I mean, I watched people having to say their last goodbyes to their family on cell
Mhm.
phones. We had to watch George Floyd being murdered right in front of our eyes, and the
Right.
loss of friendships over the presidential race between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, and the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated. I mean, it was heavy.
Very heavy. It was very heavy, and it was heavy for all of us, right? And it's interesting because we're going to talk about this in a second here, but the stigma,
Mm.
that was one of the big things um in terms of COVID that was a good thing. A lot of stigma got taken away when it comes to mental health, right? We all were struggling with so many different things. You just mentioned a whole lot of it, right? But we were also struggling with things happening within our own homes, right? And COVID had such an impact on all of us, and it brought a lot of people to therapy. It forced a lot of people to think differently about mental health and the stigma associated with mental health. And it was hard for us all. Everything that you just mentioned, like I said, things happening in people's homes, relationships. There was a lot of relationship issues, right?
And
A
they
lot
had
of
to watch them kids all day long.
right,
They had to
right.
be
Kids
parents
all
for a long
day
time.
long. No,
They're parents, but they didn't have to parent.
right,
24
right.
hours a day. So that changed the dynamics in the house too, I can imagine.
Absolutely. And school wasn't in session. You were doing school from home. There's a lot of kids that missed out on a lot of things when it comes to school during those years, right? And there was it was a huge impact on us all. You mentioned, people losing their jobs and people losing their businesses. Just think about the amount of businesses that are gone now and won't come back because of COVID-19 and the shutdowns and everything. And so it really changed people's personalities. It
Mhm.
really, like we just talked about, depression and anxiety. It really, you know, increased that level of anxiety and increased that level of depression in a lot of people, a lot of us all. And so I know that anxiety was a big part of, during the election time. A lot of people were struggling with anxiety about, what's this world going to look like, and, all kinds of things. And so not just, people and struggling with COVID, but just, everything that was happening. You said George Floyd, and just so many things happening all at the same time. And when a whole lot of things happen at the same time, a lot of, high impact things happening on us at the same time, it takes a toll on our bodies and our minds.
I think a lot, absolutely. I absolutely agree. I think a lot of us birthed out ingenuity and creativity during that time. In my opinion, I think it was God shutting the world down to get our attention in a way that He has never done before, if you are a faith based
Absolutely.
believer.
Absolutely.
I believe that for me, the way that I handled, because in our industry, if you don't work, you don't eat,
Mm-hmm.
right? And again, I saw a lot of my colleagues lose everything they put into barbershops.
Yeah.
Seen a lot of small businesses close. But for me, what I did is I found there was this app called Voisey.
What's it called?
It's called Voisey.
Oh, Voisey.
Yeah, I'm gonna make you laugh real quick. It was an app called Voisey, Brian, and you can sing on that app. Now, anybody anybody that knows me knows that I'm not the great singer, but this Voisey app
Neither
made
am
you feel like you were going to the Grammys.
I.
I mean,
Okay.
you were allowed. It had all kind of intros, any all kind of beats that you can choose from, melodies you can choose from, and it was like maybe I don't know a 10 second snippet that you could create. So those were that's the type of thing that I did to cope
Mm.
with what was going on, the shut in. Not having running out trying to get toilet paper,
Right.
stocking up. I don't know. It was crazy. It was
It was
crazy.
crazy. A lot of art, just, talking about that, there was a lot of artists that did a lot of, you know, concerts, virtual concerts, which was, amazing for a lot of people during that time too. You said that app is called Voisey?
Yeah, it's not it. It's no
I,
more. I don't know where it's at,
oh, okay.
but I
Okay.
was able to still keep some of the little songs that I made. I gave it to my little sis, Money T, and hopefully she'll be able to do something with it. I don't know. But again, I'm not a singer. I used to be a rapper back in the day. I rapped with the 916 Alliance. I went on stage to do a solo concert one time, and people rushed the stage and wanted my autographs, scared the living
Oh,
daylights out of me. So I was like, yeah, no, that's not. I'll write the songs, but I don't want to be the front guy or the front
gotcha.
girl. You know, I didn't
Yeah.
like the attention. But
Okay.
let's
Okay.
let's talk about the stigma in the church.
Okay.
It's been stated that prayer is a weapon, but therapy is a strategy.
Mm,
When it comes down to identifying mental illness, how can the leaders of our Black churches differentiate between mental illness, let's say, versus a person being possessed?
mm.
Because we'll call on our prayer warriors in a minute. We'll throw some anointed oil on you. We will take you to the altar. We will tarry at the altar. When in
Yeah.
all actuality the person is suffering from mental illness. So,
Mhm.
Brian, how do you differentiate if you are a minister in the Black church or a leader in the Black church? How do you know when this person is beyond something spiritual and it's biological or chemical?
Yeah. That's a great question. Um, I like to think of this as control, right? There's a lot of things that are outside of our control. And there's a lot of things that are in our control that we have control over, right? We have control over ourselves. We have the ability to do things and, you know, manipulate life, I guess, in a way to make things happen, if you know,
Mm-hmm.
if you will. For example, if you want to become a doctor, right? There are certain things that you need to do in order to become a doctor, right? You need to go to school. There's certain classes that you need to take, and there's certain, places that you need to go. There are certain people that you need to see, certain things that you need to do in order to become a doctor, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if you don't do those things, then you know that you're not going to be a doctor, right?
Right.
So those things are in our control. Same thing when it comes to relationships and so on and so forth, right? We know exactly what to say to upset, our partner in our relationship, right?
Right.
We know exactly what to say
You know it.
to make some people mad that we know we love and all that stuff. We have those buttons that we could push. Those things are in our control, right? So when it comes to mental illness and things like that, we should treat mental illness for what it is. Do the things that you know you need to do. If you break your arm, you need to go to the doctor and get your arm reset, put a cast on it, get some medication, and you'll be okay. Mental illness is no different. If you don't go to a doctor and get your arm fixed, then there are going to be some consequences for not going to get your arm fixed, right? We know that, right?
Right.
So again, there are things that we are in control of that we should do the things that we need to in order to be in control and take care of those things, right? God gives us a brain so
Yes.
that way we do the things that we should do, right? And God opens doors for us
Yes.
to do certain things also that are beneficial and so on and so forth, right?
Right.
So take control. Now there are things that are outside of our control as well.
Right. Right.
Those things should be left to prayer, right? The things that are outside of our control, the things that we have we can't control the weather. We can't control what other people, I'm going to say it again, we cannot control what other people are going to do. We are not in control of people. people are going to do what they want to do. And we need to then, when it comes to that kind of stuff, we can leave prayer for that, right? When things are outside of our control and we can't do anything about it, that's when it's time to pray.
You know, a lot of times when you're in an apostolic church or a Pentecostal church of spirit filled, if you say a spirit filled church,
Mhm.
a lot of times we won't even consider that. We think everything is a spirit of something.
Mhm.
Oh, they got the spirit of such and such. I cast you out in the, you know what I mean? And we'll go
Yeah,
in. We'll go
absolutely.
in. I remember being a young minister. Shout out to my sister, evangelist Brenda Moore. And there was this woman, and she just started shaking and convulsing. And she told me to go over there and pray with her. And I was like, you know what? I just got saved the other day, and I don't even think I have that power yet. My power is not up there yet. You know, I mean, I didn't know what to do, Brian. You know, I didn't
Yeah,
know it. Look, I don't want to sound all exorcisty. You know, like
sure. Yeah,
but I did wanted to give the church a platform and a space for you to answer that question
yeah,
because I've heard it a lot in different spaces, and now that mental illness is coming to the forefront.
mhm.
There, you can use, I guess, lean on discernment to know when something is spiritual versus biological.
Right. I
Brian, I
definitely
feel
think I definitely think, prayer is definitely important, right? I think we need to be able to discern which do we need to do. Do we and what do we need to be praying for, right?
Mhm.
Do we need to be praying to understand the things that need to happen in those moments, right? Or when we pray for someone, what are we praying for, right? Do
Right.
we Are we just praying just to pray, or do we want to pray to find out what needs to happen? Because like I said, we are in control of a lot of things that happen in life, right? And so I think it's important to understand what we need to be praying for so that way we can do the things that we need to do.
Right. And just in case, like you said, it goes beyond a spiritual situation.
Yeah.
We can, at least try to get that member in a safe space
Yeah.
and maybe have some, extra counseling outside of just spiritual counseling, get some real professional advice.
Right.
But Brian, I feel that historically our people stay in a constant state of survival mode by having to always defend our existence, right? We have to do more. We got to achieve more. We have to carry more. We have to parent more. We have to forgive more. We have to love more. So, what percentage, in your opinion, does culture play in mental illness?
Mhm. And culture plays a huge role in mental illness in terms of that stigma that we talked about, right? The culture determines whether or not we should do certain things, right? The culture will say it's not cool to go and seek out help for any kind of uh, thing that you're struggling with, emotionally, right? That's what the culture kind of determines, that level of stigma, right? That's why I'm so proud of people for, going against the stigma, during, the shutdowns and everything, and just saying, forget this, I need the help, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, the culture will say, don't do that, you're fine, what's the saying, your the bootstraps and all that stuff.
Pull
And
up your bootstraps. Yeah.
right, the culture will say, what do people like to say? The culture will say, uh your life is too good for you to feel down or for you to be stressed about stuff, right? Or, the culture will say men don't cry, right?
Oh man. Now, Paul, let's wait. Hold on. Woo-wee. Okay, so you have a culture and a society of men where they don't have a place to cry. They
Mhm.
don't have a safe space. Shout out to Ronnie Cobb and I for cutting to the chase
Yes, cut to the chase.
and cut to the chase and the platform for men of
Yes.
all genders and not all genders, but for all men to come and talk about their issues.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that concept. I believe that I wish that stigma didn't. It's just like six in one hand and half a dozen in the other.
Hmm.
I don't think a woman really wants a crybaby kind of man. You know what I'm saying? I think she wants that. If she's heterosexual, I think she wants that strong king to throw over her back and come here, girl, and he's the man of the house. He's gonna chase the mice and get the bugs and change the oil and he's that guy.
Yeah.
But then again, there's a part of men that women want and need that sensitivity.
Emotional intelligence,
Right, right,
right? Uh, I think that that's something that our culture, something that our society is slowly starting to shift in the right direction in terms of, being, you know, emotionally competent and all that stuff, and understanding, it's okay to cry, right?
right,
It's okay to go and get help when it comes to, you know, your mental health. It's okay to go and get help. It's okay to say everything's not all right. We do this thing. The culture says whenever somebody says, "How are you doing?" your answer should be everything's okay,
right.
right? What if we didn't do that? I don't know. Just what if we didn't do that? What if we said how we really felt, right? But that's what the culture says. That's what the culture does.
With testimony night at church, you always raised your hand. You always wanted to tell, God paid my SMUD bill.
Mm,
God bought me a house. God bought me a man. The,
yeah.
the whole get down until you heard somebody's real life testimony. You always say, I have a testimony. I had a friend. I'm not going to mention her name, but I thought I had, a hell of a testimony until I heard her testimony. And in that, it humbled me. But I'm so glad that she was able to share a part of her life because it made me love my sister in in the faith even more. It made me understand why she moves her patterns the way she did.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
um, why do you think a large percentage of African Americans who suffer from mental illness lean towards substance abuse instead of seeking medical attention? Because statistically, it's a major issue that contributes to the homeless crisis.
Hmm.
Why do we want to pick up a pill or some cocaine, some alcohol? Why is that the first thing that people reach for? Is it a numbing factor? If I can just make it go away.
It's exactly that. It's a means to an escape. It's
Mm,
a means to escape whatever it is that you're feeling, whatever it is that's, ailing you, right?
right,
Drugs, um, gambling, eating, all those things if you turn to something, right? If you turn to something, it doesn't matter what it really is. If you turn to something instead of working through the feelings that are going on inside, you're just trying to escape, right? So
Right.
people gravitate towards drugs because it's a means of escaping, right? You get to be numb, you get to, just not feel anything, you get to, knock out whatever the case may be. It's a means of escape. That's
Right.
all it is.
Right. Um, has it become, in your opinion, more accessible? Has the substance abuse, like the fentanyl, the meth, the crack, the alcoholism? Hey, do you think that because in our communities there's a liquor store on every corner,
Right.
do you think that's a deterrent to seeking mental health therapy or help? And again, I know we're talking about stigma. I
Mhm.
want you to tell our listeners, excuse me, what's the definition of a stigma? Some might not know tonight. Just what stigma
Right.
means. Can you define that for us as it pertains
So
to healing?
I wish I would have looked up the Webster dictionary, definition. But stigma, what it is it's a thought it's a thought, it's a premise, it's a concept that says going to go seek out help for your mental health is bad.
Mm-hmm.
It it makes you look weak. It means there's something wrong with you. All of that. The stigma, it says that you shouldn't go seek out a therapist,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
a head shrink. They're gonna head shrink you. They're gonna psychoanalyze you. Don't do that, right? The stigma is just, it's something, it's a premise, it's a thought that is placed inside our minds that deter us from going to go seek out whatever it is, right?
And here's the one I've heard, Brian, especially if it's a Caucasian therapist. You know, that white boy don't know nothing about what we going through, right?
Yes, yes.
Or if a young couple is going through marriage counseling,
Hmm.
he might think that you're on her side,
Right,
and oh, he just want to smash.
right. Or the another one is he's I've gotten this one. You're too young to really, to really give me any kind of advice or, whatever the case may be. I've heard that one for plenty of times.
And if you're single, you don't have no kids, how can you
Right.
give
If you don't have no
somebody
kids.
advice if you're not a parent? Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah.
Um,
And I do think that people will continue to, run towards, substances and everything. And, as long as there's the stigma is still alive, right? As long as, everything, kind of stays the same, people will continue to gravitate towards just an escape, the means to escape, and not, facing whatever it is that they need to face. Because that's the other thing too. If you go to therapy, you know that you're going to have to face some stuff, right?
you're
That's
gonna have
one
to
of the
work it.
reasons why
Yeah.
people don't go to the doctor, say, right? People don't
Hmm.
go to the doctor because they know, oh man, I don't want to know what's really up. I don't want to know what's really up, right?
Or
There's a
I can
lot of
fix it. I
people
just
that
go to
don't
the
go.
I can go. I can go to the store and get something over the counter.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, it's I know something is wrong,
Right.
and I don't want to deal with that.
Hmm.
That's what it is. It's I know something is wrong. I don't want the doctor to tell me and confirm with me what's actually wrong and the extent of what is actually wrong. This is the same thing with therapy. People know I don't want to go to therapy because I don't want to have to face that kind of thing. Couples will choose not to go to therapy because they don't want to face the thought of them, I'm wrong. I don't want to have to hear a therapist say, blame me for whatever it is that happened, right?
Right. Brian, what do you say in those counseling sessions, or how would you be able to know um, what you're saying or the advice that you're giving is actually being effective? Is there a change in the person's uh, conversation, the way that they see the value or not see the value? Does a light come on? How do you kind of
Yes.
measure in a metrics, way of the success of
Right.
what you do?
Absolutely. So with every single client, what should be happening when you enter into therapy, your therapist should establish with you a few treatment goals, right? We will do what's called a treatment plan. And with your treatment plan, you will formulate goals together, you and the therapist. And throughout therapy, the therapist should be working with you, engaging with you. Where are you at when it comes to meeting those treatment goals, right? So, uh, everybody, when you enter into therapy, you should have a reason for why you're going into therapy, right? And you should have an idea of what you hope to accomplish with therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And what is going to happen is the therapist is going to they're going to create an amazing relationship with you. They're going to be very, very supportive of you, and they're going to give you tools on navigating life, right? But they're also going to ask you lots of questions, help you to see a perspective of things that's outside of your own perspective and make you think about things differently. And when ultimately you do that, you are going to, when you think about things differently, you're going to do things differently, right? And when you do things differently, you have a higher likelihood of making changes that you want to make because you've set up these goals for yourself, and your therapist is right there to hold you accountable for making those changes.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start to make those changes,
Mm-hmm.
you will feel it, right? And so, yeah.
Mm-hmm. You said something powerful, brother. You know that, right?
Mm,
You said the therapist is going to make you accountable for those changes. Accountability was one of the things that we talked about last week in terms of what defines great leadership.
right.
And even in the role that you play
Yeah.
in that counseling session, you would be quote unquote the spearhead or the steerer of that counseling session.
Right.
This last question, Brian, is all about you, brother. It's
Ah,
all about you.
okay. Okay.
Tell us about Heart of the Matter Counseling and why you chose this profession and your passion to provide hope.
So let's start from the beginning. So I was in high school, and I remember, there I had a friend who would go to the school counselor all the time, and my friend would always ask me, "Oh, would you go with me?" And I would always say, "No, I'm not going with you to the school counselor. Why would I want to go with you to the school counselor?" And they would always ask me. And then one day I said, "Okay, fine, fine, I'll go with you. And so I go into this session with my friend and the counselor, and I'm just thinking, oh man, here we go. And I listened to this counselor and my friend talking. I didn't really say a whole lot at all because it wasn't my session.
Right.
But I listened to this school counselor do what they did, and I just thought, man, this is powerful. I think I could do this.
Right.
And that got me on my journey towards mental health and wanting to be a therapist. And so uh, I graduated high school. I'm originally from Connecticut, so I graduated high school, moved out here to California. My aunt gave me an amazing opportunity to move out here. This was my dream to be here in California. And so I moved here, and she did, amazing things for me. And eventually I came here to Sacramento and, went to Sac State, went to USF. And, I worked in community-based mental health for some time.
Mhm.
And I knew that I wanted to have a private practice.
Mhm.
And so I started Heart of the Matter Counseling in 2018.
Mm.
And I thought during the pandemic that I wasn't sure how things were going to go through the pandemic. And it actually went the opposite way than I thought it was going to go. And there was this outcry from people, and I thought that it was going to be, just a phase. I thought this is just a phase, but it just never stopped. So the referrals kept coming in, and the business kept growing, right? And so so now it's Heart of the Matter Counseling here in Sacramento. We're in the Pocket area of Sacramento. I don't know if you know where that is, but we're, kind of in South Sac, kind of Elk Grove, wherever you want to say. But we're over here in the Pocket area. We have a group of amazing therapists who do amazing work. I think we have about 10 therapists right now, and we're still growing. And Heart of the Matter has just been amazing. We've been working with the Sacramento Urban League with the Cut to the Chase program, and the Cut to the Chase Crown Edition that we just started last month. And it's been an amazing partnership with them. We have been able to reach so many people, both men and women. It started with just the men, and that has been it was an amazing turnout. The ladies were just like, "Hey, what about us?"
Right.
And
Right.
so we
Right.
started with the ladies last month. And it's been a huge blessing when it comes to this business, Heart of the Matter Counseling, and also the Sacramento Urban League with Cut to the Chase. And I'm just very, very thankful and just so blessed.
I'm gonna let you have the last response, the last passionate response. I want you to look into the camera, if you would. I want you to talk to that person that might see this live or that replay. What would you say to that person that is struggling with anxiety or depression right now, Brian?
So I want to say, whoever is listening to this, if this has had any kind of impact on you and you feel like you could use some help emotionally, whatever the case may be, there is lots of resources out there for you, and you should go and get the help that you need. Don't worry about what anybody thinks. Don't worry about what anybody is going to say. What's most important is you. Go and get the help that you need. Like I said, there are lots of resources out there. There's Heart of the Matter Counseling that's here to help if you want, but there's lots of other resources out there for you. There's Psychology Today, where you can find all the other therapists in Sacramento. And even if you're not in Sacramento, maybe you're somewhere else, in the country listening to this. There are lots of resources out there. It's just up to you to take the first step, recognize that you need something, and go seek that out.
Thank you so much, Brian, for your time tonight, for your
Yes.
expertise
Yes,
in
no problem.
addressing some of these questions about mental illness. It's a very complex topic. And again, the information that I buttressed and gathered for this interview, it was overwhelming. I was just like, it's so many layers. So
Yeah.
I appreciate the time that you spent with us tonight. I'm listening right now. Let me put this number real quick. I put a number down in the comments for the Crisis Respite Center and the Sacramento Suicide Prevention number. And again, you have also the number. I will make sure that I have your information. Let's see, that's 368 um, 3111. And I'll go ahead and submit that. Air, wait a moment. Okay, here we go. And I listed those particular numbers down in the comment section for anybody that needs that information. Again, Brian Howard, Heart of the Matter Counseling. I'll put his information in the comment section. If anybody needs a break, if anybody needs a safe space to talk, he's your man, your guy. Once again, this is No Blankets Podcast with my guest tonight, Brian Howard, founder of Heart of the Matter Counseling. Thank you again, sir, for
Thank you.
joining us tonight. Thank you, everybody, for listening. It was a great show. Next week, catch us um, here with Drew Burks, the comedian, the funny guy. He's going to bring the funnies. We're going to switch it over. We're going to switch lanes because it's been heavy for the last 4 episodes. So we're going to break it up with some funnies and let Drew Burks talk about how he used his creative ingenuity during COVID-19 to bring us some comedy online. Again, Brian, we thank you for tonight. We'll see you later. Thank you for tuning in to No Blankets Podcast.